Thank you for joining me. So Elizabeth Warren is announcing her presidential campaign Monday, and this is in wake of yet another scandal that now we know that according to a document that was obtained by the Washington Post, which is certainly no conservative publication, Elizabeth Warren had filled out an application for the bar exam in the state of Texas in which she listed herself as an American Indian and did so in her own hand. This is a handwritten note. And that, of course, is further proof that she had checked off the box for Native American while applying for tenure at Harvard. And also, I think it's known that she did the same thing at the University of Pennsylvania. But this gets into a broader issue with Elizabeth Warren. Not just the fact that she lied about these things, but I actually believe that Elizabeth Warren had convinced herself that she wasn't lying when she did this. She's delusional. It's similar to someone who, like, for example, Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut, goes around his state for many, many years talking about his experience in Vietnam, when it turns out he never went to Vietnam. And there is this phenomena of stolen valor. Certainly Elizabeth Warren is guilty of that. But the fact is that Warren has a long history of glomming on to things that look good, that help her advance, that make her feel valid, that make her appear to others as being a person of substance. I could go into a long list of them. She claimed to have founded the, watching her close up in Massachusetts, it's obvious. She claims to have founded the Occupy Wall Street movement because that was trendy at the time, and it looked good, and it made her feel right, and she thought it would help her politically to say that. She came across while running for the Senate the first time. She wanted to appear to be somewhat lower middle class, so she sold her very wealthy, nice, plush car and got like a more of a working class looking car, to put on a better image for a working class person. And, she talks about helping women when, in fact, as a lawyer, she made a big, fat, six-figure payment from Dow Chemical, who hired her to make sure that women suing them for toxic shock syndrome would not get anything. So we're talking about someone who really operates in two planes of reality. She's utterly self-interested and greedy and just willing to do anything to get ahead. And, she will transform herself chameleon-like to being anything that she thinks might be beneficial to her at any given time. During the Me Too movement, she came out and said, oh, yes, me too. I'm part of this because this man attacked me. Turns out that the man that she said had chased her around his desk was wheelchair bound. And it was this same man that about 5 years later, she was the MC at an award ceremony for him. So, she just jumped on it because, hey, this was what people were talking about, and she couldn't tolerate the idea of not being affiliated with something. It reminds me, I'm not going to get into names here, of a former radio co-host of mine, very liberal co-host from California, who, it's no matter what was going on, he would be part of it. Martin Luther King Day, I was there. I met Martin Luther King. Didn't matter what the subject was, he was there. I remember visiting him at his home and seeing pictures on his wall of him with a lot of famous people, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton. And you could tell that these people had no idea who he was. It was like Zelig. And also, he, like Elizabeth Warren, would lie a lot. He would tell a big fat lie in the middle of our show and live broadcasting, knowing that I really couldn't have a chance to check it out because we were in the middle of talking on the air. So typically, and this happened often, typically after the show, I would research the issue, find out that it was untrue. The next day, I would bring it up on the air. He would apologize, sort of, and say, oh, well, I misspoke. And then a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, he would be at it again with the exact same lie. And I don't think he even thought of it as a lie, because I think, like Elizabeth Warren and like people on the left, oftentimes they are deluded. They don't really, they're so used to lying because they're involved in a way of looking at the world that is based upon lies, and that they support policies and a vision that's impossible and artificial. Thus, it requires lies. That he and Elizabeth Warren, we're getting back to Elizabeth Warren, they've conditioned themselves at an early age to lie and to exaggerate anything to get ahead, because they believe in power and they believe in government. They don't believe in an objective, transcendent truth. They certainly don't believe in God. They don't believe in the fact that there are bigger issues in the world than simple power. And of course, that's because they're leftists. Leftism is all about power. It's all about earthly transformation into a utopian age. Now, maybe I'm getting a little off field here. Getting back to Elizabeth Warren, she is fraudulent even for liberals. I mean, I don't understand how even liberals who might be steeped in the same infested waters that she's traveled in all her life, how they could support her, because she's an embarrassment to them. She exposes their dark side, just like, well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does as well, but for different reasons. I actually think she's quite sincere in her socialism and in her communism. She's not sophisticated enough to lie yet. But the point is, Elizabeth Warren's been around for a long time, and she's deluding herself, I think. First of all, she thinks that she's going to get any traction as a candidate for president. I feel ashamed and mortified as a citizen of Massachusetts that she's been elected here and that she did so well in the last election. It makes me wonder what's in the water here in my state. But, it's a cult thing, and people are willing to be hypnotized by things because they want to believe them. And Elizabeth Warren is willing to be the master of that. So those are my thoughts about Elizabeth Warren. I think she is a delusional, both literally and in every sense. I think when she says that she's, Native American at the time she said this, she probably actually believed it. And I'll just mention in closing that her story that she told her family that her family, she grew up thinking she was part Native American and this was family lore. I don't believe that either. I think that's a lot of hogwash, because there's 0.0001% Native American. The fact that, by the way, she thought that was great that she went out with that shows how out of touch she is. But I think she told her family to say this as a cover-up because when the issue became public, she needed a story. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great evening.